Welcome to the future, where the glass is half full and you'll need new glasses, where you'll be jumping from conclusions.
The past is annulled, and a new future is born.
Never before in history has so much meant so little to so many. AD on the radio.
So it's interesting what's happening right now. The Harvey Weinstein stuff, man, the floodgates are open, and it would appear as though it's all coming out. And it's very reminiscent, isn't it, of what happened with Bill Cosby. Do you remember there were all these sort of like hints and allegations of Bill Cosby being improper, and then they went away. People were silenced. I guess they were given hush money, and the whole thing kind of went away for a couple of years. And the weirdest thing about how, and I don't know if you caught this or you saw the video or if you're aware of it, the weirdest thing about how the Bill Cosby scandal resurfaced was it wasn't intentional. And it wasn't from one of his accusers. Hannibal Buress, very funny comedian, was on stage one night, and I don't remember exactly what it was, but somebody in the audience made reference to Bill Cosby. I think they were heckling him, maybe saying Bill Cosby was... that's irrelevant. The way Hannibal Buress was reacted to it was a game-changing thing. And I don't think that he necessarily had any idea or any intention of the chain of events that he'd started, but he was like, yeah, you can bring up Bill Cosby if you want, but the guy's a rapist. He said over and over again, Bill Cosby's a rapist. Bill Cosby's a rapist on stage. And the clip went viral. And all of a sudden, victims start coming out of the woodwork saying Bill Cosby was a rapist. He did this stuff to me. It's not okay. I kept quiet for 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, however many years. But it's not okay. He needs to pay for what he's done. He needs to answer for what he's done. Now, do you see the interesting thing that happened there? Look, Hannibal Buress probably wasn't on a crusade. He wasn't trying to be a social justice warrior. But he was like, you can bring up Bill Cosby if you want, but that guy's a rapist. And where there's that amount of smoke, there's going to be a certain amount of fire. And what it's adding up to is Bill Cosby might have been this massive serial rapist. This guy who was America's dad. This guy who scolded comedians for cursing on stage. This guy who cast aspersions on African American society for not being respectful enough of themselves. Could possibly be one of the biggest serial rapists in the history of serial raping. And the thing that brought it all tumbling down around Cosby was one guy standing up and being like, Bill Cosby's a rapist. This guy's not okay. He's done horrible, horrible things. One guy. Victims had been paid hush money. Victims hadn't been believed. Yet, there was knowledge, I guess, among certain people, because Hannibal Buress sure seemed to know, that this guy had done unspeakable, monstrous things. One voice standing up against this, and the dam burst. The floodgates opened. And like we said, Cosby's world came falling down around his ears. And I remember when I was a kid in school, I was actually given a class on how to deal with bullies. I'll never forget, the teacher said to me, you know what stops a bully 9 times out of 10? Disapproval from the people around him. Oftentimes, when you see something happening that's not okay, the victim of the crime, the bully's not going to listen to him. The person perpetrating the crime is not going to pay attention to their protests. But when you are judged by a jury of your peers, one person standing up and saying, that's not right, stop it. I was taught as a kid that's the best way to diffuse a bullying situation. You see somebody doing something to someone, you go, hey, cut it out. That's not okay. And they said more often than not, that'll shut it down. But it takes a voice to open the floodgates. I think we've learned something very, very interesting about that, watching the whole situation with Harvey Weinstein unravel.
Real radio.
104.1.
Where the left and right come together for fundamental truths. AD on the radio, on Twitter at ADSXE.
So, the Harvey Weinstein thing happening now, the way it's happening, is an interesting one. It took one voice, Hannibal Buress's, standing up against Bill Cosby and going, that's not okay. When we were kids, we were taught best way to stand up to a bully is to go, that's not okay. Stop it. We don't approve of what you're doing. And Harvey Weinstein is a very, very interesting character. Kind of a cult of personality. Because similar to Bill Cosby, this is coming out over and over and over again. And the history of it goes way, way back. The allegations against Harvey Weinstein, they're piling up at a ridiculous rate. The names are getting bigger and bigger. Gwyneth Paltrow and Angelina Jolie say they had their run-ins with him in the 90s. We talked about this a little yesterday, but Gwyneth was 22. She'd just been cast in the 96 movie Emma. Harvey invited her to his hotel room. It started like a typical business meeting until Harvey suggested massages. She refused and told her then boyfriend Brad Pitt about it. Brad confronted Harvey at a movie premiere and told him never to touch her again. But all that did was make Harvey go off on Gwyneth. She said, quote, he screamed at me for a long time. It was brutal. I thought he was going to fire me. Of course he didn't. And a few years later, she was an Oscar winner for Shakespeare in Love, made by Harvey's company Miramax. Gwyneth said Harvey was, quote, alternately generous and supportive and championing, and then punitive and bullying. Angelina Jolie's story takes place around the time that her movie Playing by Heart came out in 1998. Again, in a hotel room, definitely seems to have had a modus operandi. She didn't give those details, though. She said, I had a bad experience with Harvey Weinstein in my youth and as a result chose never to work with him again and warned others when they did. This behavior towards women in any field, any country, is unacceptable. Rosanna Arquette has a similar story. She said that Harvey grabbed her hand and pulled it towards his crotch. She didn't go along, and the part that was supposed to be hers, the part she was supposed to be there to talk to him about, went to somebody else. Mira Sorvino said he chased her around a hotel room during the Toronto Film Festival 20 years ago. And this is all from a New York Times piece where several others have told their Harvey horror stories. And it gets worse, if you can believe it. 3 women have told The New Yorker that Harvey raped them. The most famous is this Italian actress, Asia Argento, who says Harvey forcibly performed something that I won't name by name on the radio here, but forcibly, well, he raped her. But like a lot of women, she was afraid to come forward, saying, quote, I know he has crushed a lot of people before. That's why this story, in my case, it's 20 years old. Some of them are older, and it's never come out. Asia wrote, directed, and starred in a movie in 1999 called Scarlet Diva, where her character gets raped by a producer. And it was about Harvey. But you hear these stories, And you hear his, "Oh, I'm from a different era" excuse for having raped people. He said something to the effect of, "I grew up in the 60s and 70s and was brought up thinking this sort of..." No, it was never okay. None of this was ever even remotely okay. You know it. We know it. And everybody knows it. But the incredible part, and the question that everyone is asking, some judgmentally, why didn't they come forward? Well, this is a guy who has, and I know, you're thinking these people are huge stars. They make millions upon millions upon millions of dollars per film. They have no financial problems, whatever. But he controls their career, their life, their livelihood. He had, for decades upon decades, the ability to make them go away professionally. And he held that power over the individual. Here's the thing, though. It took just a couple of voices. Rose McGowan, who I think we've talked about. I don't know why, I don't know how, but Rose McGowan started following me on Twitter. I followed her because I was like, hey, there's that Charmed. I like that show. I always thought she was kind of cool. What was that Tarantino movie she did, Funkhouser?
Oh, I don't know.
But anyways, I always thought she was kind of a badass, so I followed her on Twitter and was surprised to find out that she'd followed me back, and we've chatted a little bit here and there. And she was one of the first people to, I guess, kind of whistleblow, and she had an interesting form of power in that situation, where she was like, all this stuff that I've been doing, acting, I don't really care for acting. I don't want to be in movies. I've spent my life trying to get to a certain place here, and I realized that I'm not that into it. I'm paraphrasing, I'm sure. And Rose, if you listen to this, if I'm getting any of this wrong, my bad. But she had the incredible power of not giving an F anymore. Didn't care about the fact that this guy could destroy her acting career because she wasn't interested in having an acting career anymore. And it took the strength of someone like her standing up and going like, all right, now I don't care if you ruin me because there's really nothing that you've got that I want anymore. I'm taking you the hell down. And then the floodgates open.
For more stimulation and less irritation, 9 out of 10 doctors choose KPRC AM 950, Houston's more stimulating talk radio.
Don't get the blues, get all the news. We mean all of you guys out there in Radio Land. All aboard!
He's back. AD on the radio.
Give it up, yeah. Give it up, yeah. Bring this on. Come on, come on.
So back in 2015, the NYPD set up a sting operation and caught Harvey Weinstein on tape admitting to groping a woman. It's while he's trying to lure a woman into his hotel room, and the whole thing is pretty gross and pretty freaking pathetic. The recording was released along with a full report from the New Yorker the other day about the rape allegations against him. Have a listen.
What do we have to do here?
Nothing. I'm going to take a shower. You sit there and have a drink. Water.
I don't drink. Can I stay on the bar?
No, you must come here now.
No.
Please, I'm not going to do anything. I swear on my children. Please come in. On everything. I'm a famous guy.
I'm feeling very uncomfortable right now.
Please come in now. And 1 minute. And if you want to leave, when the guy comes with my jacket, you can go.
Yesterday you touched my breast.
Oh, please, I'm sorry. Just come on. I'm used to that. Come on.
Are you used to that?
Yes, come in.
No, but I'm not used to that.
I won't do it again. Come on. Sit here. Don't ruin your friendship with me for 5 minutes.
I know, but it's kind of like, it's too much for me. I can't.
Please, you're making a big scene here.
No,
Please.
but I want to leave.
Okay, bye.
It's disgusting. It's really horrifying. It's freaking stomach turning. I think it's stomach turning for a lot of reasons, but mostly because you know that this is played out over and over again. And also you start to realize this is how it happens. The way he persists, the way he doesn't take no for an answer, the way he kind of beats up someone verbally and kind of mentally into thinking any of this is okay or normal. And I think that's the craziest thing about this, because so many people can, from the outside looking in, go, how does something like this happen? Why would anybody put up with this? Why would, what? And this is a guy who just, this is a guy who didn't have anyone around him that told him no for years and years and years. And it's freaking hideous. Harvey said that his wife was 100% behind him. Well, he was wrong. Georgina Chapman announced that she's leaving him and said, quote, "My heart breaks for all the women who have suffered tremendous pain because of these unforgivable actions." He's been a huge contributor to liberal causes and Democratic politicians, including Barack Obama and the Clintons. So they couldn't remain silent on this. Obama and his wife, Michelle, said they're disgusted by it and praised the women for coming forward. As you may know, their daughter Malia interned for Harvey as a scriptreader. Hillary said she was shocked and appalled. Some people are criticizing her for not commenting sooner, but there you go. Matt Damon said he did not knowingly try to tamp down a sexual harassment story about Harvey in 2004. This was the accusation, that there was going to be a sexual harassment story written about Harvey in 2004, and Matt Damon ran interference on the situation. And he claims that he never saw that kind of behavior when he worked with him. Ben Affleck said he's saddened and angry and sickened by what's coming out about Harvey. Ben Affleck has Ben Affleck, by saying he's saddened and angry, has started to catch his own heat for being inappropriate in a sexual harassment kind of way in the past. Do you remember Funkhouser? We were talking about a lot of sort of like late 90s, early 2000s.
Oh, yeah. You talking about off the air or?
Well, yeah. Hold on. Who was it? It was, she was on MTV. She was on One Tree Hill. Hillary Burton. You remember her?
No.
She was on MTV. She was like a 19-year-old host. She was a 19-year-old host in like 2003. And Ben Affleck has been very public about going, well, that's not okay that Harvey did that. And then a video went viral of Hillary Burton being groped by her, being groped by Ben Affleck. Affleck has apologized for his behavior, saying in a statement, "I acted inappropriately toward Miss Burton, and I sincerely apologize." And it's funny because you can watch the video, and it's a weird thing because he walks over. He's like, "What are you, like 19 years old?" And he gropes her out of shot of the camera. He grabs her boob. And then she later told the story laughing. She was like, he grabbed my boob. I was like, yeah, I didn't ask for that. And she was 19 at the time. She's 35 now. And she's been very clear saying I was laughing because if I wasn't laughing, I would have been crying. And it's a very interesting one when you kind of see how this happened, because that remains the big question. Why didn't they speak up? Why did they let a predator get away with the things they got away with? How is this possible? And the really disturbing part, but really valuable part of all this, is you start to see how it happens. You start to see, hold on one second. That's how he did it. That disgusting tape of Harvey Weinstein badgering a woman into coming into his hotel room and grabbing her breast. You go, oh my gosh, this is how he did it. And then it just doesn't stop. And you realize that what some people can get away with in these situations is tantamount to murder. Well, it's rape. It's sexual harassment. It's rape. And it's unforgivable. And these things are so terrible that the question gets asked over and over again. If he really did this, how come he hasn't been caught? How did he get away with this for all these years? And that's how. These things happen. But what's so valuable is people standing up en masse, like they did with Cosby, going, that's not okay. This is not okay. This guy got away with something for so long, and it's not okay. And hopefully, the size of this story will translate into other parts of life, other workplaces. Did you see what Terry Crews did? You know Terry Crews, right, Funkhouser?
Oh, is he a football player?
He could have been. And he was some sort of athlete before he was an actor. You know Terry Crews. Google Terry Crews. He's on, what's he on? He's on, what's the big show he's on with the guy from SNL?
Oh,
Help
Brooklyn Nine-Nine?
Yeah, Terry Crews.
All right.
He's enormous guy. And he went on Twitter after Harvey Weinstein happened. He said, this whole thing with Harvey Weinstein is giving me PSD. Why? Because this kind of thing happened to me. My wife and I were at a Hollywood function last year. At a high-level Hollywood executive came over to me and groped my privates. Jumping back, I said, what are you doing? My wife saw everything, and we looked at him like he was crazy. He just grinned like a jerk. I was going to kick his ass right then, but I thought twice about how the whole thing would appear. 240-pound black man stomps out Hollywood honcho would be the headline the next day. Only I probably wouldn't have been able to read it because I would have been in jail, so we left. That night and the next day, I talked to everyone I knew that had worked with him about what had happened. He called me the next day with an apology, but never really explained why he did what he did. I decided not to take it farther because I didn't want to be ostracized. Par for the course when the predator has power and influence. I let it go, and I understand why many women who this happens to let it go. Who is going to believe you? Few. What are the repercussions? Many. Do you want to work again? Yes. Are you prepared to be ostracized? No. I love what I do, but it's a shame and the height of disappointment when someone tries to take advantage of that. He knows who he is, but sometimes you have to wait and compare notes with others who have been victimized in order to gain a position of strength. I understand and I empathize with those who have remained silent. But Harvey Weinstein is not the only perpetrator. Hollywood is not the only business where this happens. And to the casualties of this behavior, you are not alone. Hopefully, me coming forward with my story will deter a predator and encourage someone who feels hopeless. And for people going, how could these women, how could these young girls not say something? Here's, like you said, a 240-pound former American football player. Enormous guy, capable of handling anything physically that comes his way. Yet, he was put in a position of weakness by someone in his workplace. And so the question becomes over and over again, how could this happen for so long? And this, I guess what I'm getting at is this is how these things happen. And it is so important. It's so important that we change the script, change the narrative of what is and what is not okay and what we let slide. And I really, really hope that these floodgates opening make people recognize that it's okay to stand up. It's okay. And people go, oh, yeah, that's really brave for them standing up 20 years. Trust me, this stuff takes stones. This stuff takes guts. And I applaud everyone who's come forward and will continue to come forward, not in just these cases, but in anything, in any workplace. It's so important that we grow past this and evolve and change. All right, then, Funkhouser. Oh, oh man. Did you see what happened with Mike Ditka and
No,
Joe
he's
Namath?
in the news?
Mike Ditka.
What year is this? What's going on?
Well, I would imagine that Mike Ditka has problems with the concept of what year it is as well, because Mike Ditka went on the record recently saying black people haven't faced oppression in 100 years.
100?
100, yes. Mike Ditka says it's been 100 years since...
What year is this really now?
No, this is the question. And the whole thing is just absolutely mind-blowing. Absolutely freaking... It's fascinating. It's horrible. And we'll get into it after we go through... We'll go through the events of today. What's going on in the world?
Okay, well, we'll start with the breaking news. Justin Bieber reportedly asked Adam Sandler and David Spade for acting tips.
He asked Adam Sandler and David Spade how to act? I thought his poor decisions were in the past.
Oh, no, he's still doing those. I wonder if he's still driving around his chrome Fisker.
I don't know. I think he crashed it or it got taken away, or he drove it into one of the oil vats of cough syrup that he had stocked in his guitar, in his garage.
Meryl Streep says she's shocked to find out Harvey Weinstein sexually harassed women.
Oh, wow. Yeah, everybody always said she was a great actress.
Did you hear about the audio recording that emerged of Harvey Weinstein admitting to groping a woman?
No, that's the one we just listened to, where she was like, "You touched my breast," and he was like, "Sorry, that's just what I'm used to." And she's like, "I'm not used to it." So I guess that is that's the admission part of it. Sorry, it just, yeah.
It's a giant subject.
It really is. It really is. And you know what? There's so many that on the one hand, it takes tremendous courage to stand up in these situations. It really does. On the other hand, there are people that knew for a long time that were kind of complicit in this. Talk about an open secret. Back in 2013, Seth MacFarlane made a Harvey Weinstein joke while announcing the Oscar nominees. And it's interesting. We'll have a listen next.
Sometimes you just know you're done. You're longing for that shining sun. You walk these streets most every day. You're waiting to get washed away. Radio. Radio. 104.1.
Now, more AD on the radio.
So like I was saying before, talk about an open secret. Back in 2013, Seth MacFarlane made a Harvey Weinstein joke while announcing the Oscar nominees. Check this out for one moment.
It's happening today, but I kind of am.
All right. The 2012 nominees for Best Performance by an Actress in a Supporting Role are Sally Field in Lincoln, Anne Hathaway in Les Miserables, Jackie Weaver in Silver Linings Playbook, Helen Hunt in The Sessions, and Amy Adams in The Master. Congratulations, you five ladies no longer have to pretend to be attracted to Harvey Weinstein.
Ooh. Sources say Harvey thinks his brother Bob sold him out to the New York Times to get him ousted from their company. Meanwhile, Bob called his brother Harvey a very sick man. But Harvey is supposedly on his way to... You can hit the news bet again. This all falls into the category of news, Funkhouser.
It's always a Bob that messes everything up.
Oh, what other Bob messed things up?
I don't know. There was a movie about Bob.
What about Bob?
Uh-huh.
Harvey Weinstein is headed to a residential treatment facility in Europe.
What is that? Residential treatment facility?
It's to treat his sex addiction. It's like going to rehab for sex addiction, where residential meaning you live there. You've got such a big problem, you can't, just go to a shrink once a week and go through the rest of your life. You have to completely sequester yourself and all the above. But yeah, I have a feeling when all is said and done, and I really hope when all is said and done, that's not good enough. All right.
Yeah, does that kind of stuff work?
Going to a rehab facility?
Like residential?
I don't know. I've never been to rehab. Never had a... there was one time where I almost did go to a residential place.
Huh.
Not for addiction to anything. Not for addiction. Not for any sort of like problem or self-harm. I had the worst, and it's still pretty bad, but I had the worst insomnia like ever when I was a kid. Like just up for extraordinarily long amounts of time. And the fact that I lived in this sort of crazy merry-go-round existence where, I hit the stage at 11 o'clock at night, and that was the beginning of my workday. And then a lot of the time, like, well, all right, you start playing your show at 11, you'll be off at midnight, and then I need you up at 5:30 in the morning to go do an interview on some morning show in Topeka, Kansas, or wherever the hell we were playing that day. Well, what are you going to do? You're going to stay up all night. And so, like, my sleep schedule had little or nothing to do with how the rest of the world operated. And then it was compounded by the fact that I was an insomniac. And there was a doctor that recommended going to a sleep clinic where what they do is they work on what's called your sleep hygiene. And it's basically just getting you on track. But because you are incapable of doing the right things for yourself, they're going to have somebody crack the whip over you and have you do it. But I didn't wind up needing to do it. I kind of got it under control with what they call sleep hygiene management. So that was the only time I ever had someone suggest that I go away to a residential treatment place, was to get my sleep in order.
Huh.
And also, I couldn't freaking afford it. I was like, how much? Yeah, I think I'll just, and I remember thinking, I was like, I got to get back on schedule. I got it. So I think what I did then, and still what I do now, and it's not a good thing to do, but what I did then was I just stayed up for like 48 or 36 hours and just couldn't sleep, would stay up, and just eventually allow myself to fall asleep at 10 o'clock at night the next day. And that was
that's
how
not good.
I did it. No, it's not good. Don't really do that anymore. But that's how I did it. Think about residential treatment facilities. They ain't cheap. That was, and it's kind of alluring. Like I didn't want, like, some people have drug addictions or sex addictions or whatever, where they do things that they really get, sort of some kind of pleasure out of. Like, I didn't get pleasure out of not sleeping. I just couldn't sleep, and I couldn't force myself to have the good habits necessary. I couldn't do that thing where you don't watch TV at all. There's all these things you're supposed to do if you're incapable of sleeping. Like, your bedroom. Do you know about this, Funkhouser? You ever had any issues with sleep?
No. I'm out like a light.
I can tell you. Oh, jerk. And you're always up super early, like bright-eyed and bushy-tailed. It drives me freaking nuts. But, yeah, no, there's all these different things that you're supposed to do. Like your bedroom, you're not supposed to have a television in it. You're not supposed to have a computer in it. You're not supposed to have any kind of work stuff in it. You're not supposed to have your bedroom. A sleep hygienist, a doctor will tell you the only thing that your bed is for is sleep and getting busy. A doctor will tell you the only thing, if you have problems sleeping, you should only use your bed for sleep and for sex. And that's it. Even if you need to read to help yourself fall asleep, you're supposed to get up, go to the other room, read for 15 minutes, then go back to bed. You don't want to get in the habit of reading in bed. It's a weird thing.
Huh.
But yeah. Go on.
Well, we were talking about the audio that was released of Harvey Weinstein asking a woman to come into his hotel room and watch him shower.
Yeah, the part we didn't play you was
what
followed immediately afterward, which was the sound of a woman violently puking at the idea. He, I don't ever judge a book by a cover. I think it's, you can't judge a person by their outward appearance. You just cannot do that. Like you're cheating them and you're cheating yourself if you prejudge someone based on their appearance. That said, I see Harvey Weinstein and find out he's done these horrible things for all these years. I look at him and go, seems about right. Like if someone asked me to build a mental image of what someone who did those things would look like, he's like Jabba the Hutt poured into a suit that doesn't fit, and someone forgot to say when. And he just, because you look at someone like, I don't know, well, he's not a director. He's a producer. He's not an artist. He's a money guy. He basically sort of like puts stuff together. He's one of those people that works on the peripheral, sort of like helping find funding and helping people get into movies and this person would be good for this role. And there's nothing creative or artistic about what he's done. He's a money man that wanted to be around fame
shots
and
fired. Wow.
Beautiful women. And he just looks like that all-consuming, just like more of everything, more women, more money, more food, more wine. So yeah, the mental image that I picture when I hear about someone like Harvey Weinstein looks a lot like Harvey Weinstein.
Leave the stimulation to the professionals.
Everyone is so smart.
KPRC, more stimulating talk radio.
There's something happening here, and you should know what it is. The dumbing up of America. Now, more AD on the radio.
All right, Funkhouser, let's do a little bit more news, and then I'm really interested to talk about Mike Ditka. Don't let me go long on the news.
Okay, Mike Ditka, huh?
Because the Mike Ditka thing is absolutely fascinating.
All right. Well, Sam Smith has announced a North American tour.
Well, it's good timing because America is nostalgic for the music of Tom Petty. That little English rip-off artist. Have you ever heard those two songs back-to-back, Funkhouser?
No, which two?
Oh, my gosh. Hold on. There's got to be...
Oh, I Won't Back Down, Stay With Me?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we did this.
Yeah, we did, but here. Check this out. Please don't be an ad on YouTube. There we go. So that's Sam Smith, Stay With Me. Anyways.
Wow.
And you know what? Without even questioning it, when Tom Petty's folks approached Sam Smith, they're like, yeah, writing credit and 30% sound good to you? Like, I don't know what the percentage was, but they immediately gave him a writing credit. They didn't even bother trying to fight it or deny it or any of the above. They just went, yeah, Sam did that. Sam shouldn't have done that. Maybe we should have come to you first. And there you go. Anyways, more news.
Sometimes you just overlook things that you don't see the first time, I guess. You know?
Or maybe sometimes you listen to Tom Petty's song and go, I'm not 1/10 of the songwriter that Tom Petty is, but let me just see if I can mangle this.
I think that was a subconscious decision.
Oh, no, it wasn't. No, it wasn't. If it was a subconscious decision, they would have questioned it for at least a second. They would have questioned it, but they didn't. They just went, here, Tom, here's your writing credit. Here's some money. Like they didn't even bother fighting it for one teeny tiny second. And I believe that stuff happens subconsciously. Like, it's impossible that it doesn't happen subconsciously. Look, the same way comedians talk about, there's time-honored premises that we've all used that aren't unique, and and then there's slowing someone else's bit down and ripping it off note for note. That's a note for note job on the part of whoever the hell wrote that song for Sam Smith. Go
on. Mike Ditka said there's been no oppression of black people for over the last 100 years.
Oh, really? Yeah, this is what we'll get to a little later on in the show before we finish out, because like I said, it's freaking fascinating. Like, you realize that people hear these words when they come out of your mouth, right? Like, even if you actually believe this ridiculous statement to be true, you know that by saying these words, what you doing? What are you thinking? You moron, you idiot, are you naive, or maybe this is just the most conclusive proof yet of the perils of CTE in the NFL. I don't know, but we'll get into it later. What else?
OJ Simpson lost a ton of weight in prison with the help of a former bodybuilder who was serving a murder sentence.
I'm sure they had killer workouts.
Fine.
Yeah, you're welcome. That just happened, and you're welcome.
Yeah, a British tennis player was suspended after testing positive for cocaine.
Yeah. His career as a tennis player is over, but his career as a Miami Dolphins coach, that's just beginning. I see from your lack of mirth that you didn't hear the story about the Miami Dolphins offensive line coach. Oh, my God. What the hell was his name? The offensive line coach, I'm pretty sure.
You know me, I'm not a sports.
That's true, yeah. Like, whenever we talk about sports, you're like, yay, sports ball. The offensive line coach of the Miami Dolphins was caught on camera snorting coke, and he was like, time to not be the offensive line coach of the Miami Dolphins anymore.
How do you do that on camera?
You're probably high, so you're not thinking. Is this how that happens?
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Michael Jordan made his biggest charitable donation ever to build 2 medical clinics in Charlotte, North Carolina.
In other words, he made the Michael Jordan of Michael Jordan donations. That's awesome. Good for him.
Yeah, cool. Oh, wow. Look at this. Tanya Harding is reportedly training for a one-off skating exhibition.
Oh, well, we wish you luck. Break a knee. I mean,
come on. Was she the attacker or the attackee?
Oh, no, she was the... hold on, am I getting this wrong? No, she was the attacker. She's the one that's been banned from professional skating for forever.
She was the one with the implement that hit the other girl.
Well, no, she didn't do the hitting. She had her boyfriend or her husband at the time.
Oh, she set up the thing. Okay. It was just before my time, so.
She was banned for life from the U.S. Figure Skating Association after pleading guilty to hindering the prosecution following the attack on fellow skater Nancy Kerrigan. Yeah, Nancy Kerrigan was the person who got the bat to the knee. And Tanya Harding was the one who had her boyfriend, husband, whoever the hell it was, do it. But yeah, she's training for a one-off skating exhibition. Go on.
Insiders say Rex Tillerson's days as Secretary of State are numbered.
Well, of course they're numbered. He's part of the political Hunger Games known as the Trump administration. Duh. You see that thing where
who's the moron now?
Yeah, no. The scandal is Rex Tillerson was thinking of quitting and called Donald Trump a moron. And he was like, no, I was never thinking of quitting. And people went, but did you call Donald Trump a moron? And he went, nice day, isn't it?
Look, I'm not going to respond to such things.
And so now Donald Trump said his latest is, if we both took an IQ test, let me tell you who would win. It's me. Was the implication. Oh, God. It's just, it's crazy. It's Kelly, Kelly's the one who seems to have the stones to stand up, although he's apparently been on thin ice recently too, or at least that's the rumor. Bannon wanted out. He got fired, but everybody says he wanted out, and he sort of Svengali'd his own way out of what he was doing. He said that the Trump that he got elected was not the Trump that was in office anymore, and for that reason, I'm out, as they say on Shark Tank. But yeah, it'd be a tough gig, like, hey, would you like to be appointed to one of the highest offices in all the land? How does Secretary of State sound? I'm probably going to get fired in about 2 to 3 weeks, but okay, I'll give it a go. It's just got to be crazy being part of the revolving door that is Trump's administration. Go on.
You got to think, though, 3 years from now, that revolving door won't be so revolving, I think. I think eventually they'll find, maybe that's his divine plan from the beginning, is to just keep firing people until somebody can actually do the job.
Maybe. I don't know. If we haven't all perished in global Armageddon before then, maybe that'll all play out.
Yeah. What do they say? Hindsight is 20/20. So we'll find out.
Yeah.
According to insiders, Bill Clinton suggested major challenges to Hillary's book, What Happened, but Hillary totally ignored those challenges.
I heard that. Yeah. She was like, hey, Bill, what do you think? He's like, I changed this part and this part. And she was like, whatever. Doesn't that grind your gears when somebody asks you a question but doesn't want to listen to the answer?
Huh?
When somebody asks you a question, they don't want to, I always get this. There's interns and stuff and sort of people that are in radio that want to kind of do something with their life. And they always come to you and they seek you out and they go, hey, I have a question. How do I do this? And before you finish your sentence, they're interrupting you. And it's just why bother asking the question if you're not going to? Anyways, I digress. Bill Clinton suggested major changes to Hillary's book, What Happened? But Hillary totally ignored him, which is interesting because I thought the only things that Hillary ignored were Pennsylvania and Wisconsin. 2 more pieces of news, Funkhouser.
Oh, we've only got a couple of minutes here. Kim Jong-un wants to build a tourist retreat in North Korea.
It's for everyone who wants to enjoy a luxurious spa before being shot by a firing squad. What else?
H.J. Heinz was born on this day in 1844.
The ketchup guy, Heinz.
Yes.
Yeah. I heard that when he was born, I heard that when H.J. Heinz, who went on to be the creator of Heinz Ketchup, was born, it was a difficult delivery. Doctor had to pound the top of his mother's head multiple times before he dropped out. See what I did there?
Get the butter knife.
Yeah. Okay. Oh yeah, that's when you've really given up. When you use the butter knife to get the ketchup out of the bottle. It used to freak me out when I saw people do that. Mike Ditka, in a radio interview this week, Pro Football Hall of Famer Mike Ditka said that he doesn't understand all these national anthem protests because African Americans have been equal for the last century or so. He said, and I quote, all of a sudden it's become a big deal now about oppression. There has been no oppression in the last 100 years that I know of. Now, maybe I'm not watching it as carefully as other people. I think the opportunity is there for everybody. If you want to work, if you want to try, if you want to put effort into yourself, I think you can accomplish anything. Naturally, that's ruffling a few feathers, with some people pointing out that Ditka's mentality is the whole reason that the protests are happening in the first place. So it's basically on between 2 football Hall of Famers. Another Hall of Famer took Ditka on directly. Joe Namath was on Fox and Friends and said, look up the meaning of oppression, look up the definition, and you understand that it's obviously taken place. When asked if he would kneel, Namath said, quote, I'm not there, but I've never walked in a black man's shoes either. So simple. So simple. I've never walked in a black man's shoes. Just a very easy way of saying, I don't know. I don't know what it's like to go through the things that someone I'm not goes through. You and I have talked about this at length, ad nauseum. I wouldn't take a knee. Still firm on not taking a knee. And it's not because I'm like Mike Ditka and believe that black people haven't faced oppression for the last 100 years. I do agree that opportunity is there for everybody. But to say there's no oppression is obviously just patently ignorant. I wouldn't take a knee because that seems to widen a divide. Makes people angry. Makes people want to counter-protest you like Mike Pence showing up at a football game and leaving immediately to make a statement. But I would never do that because it seems to alienate rather than bridge gaps of understanding. I would find a different way of taking a knee because there is, make no mistake about this, still oppression.